φίλοι του Sportsnewsgreece, χαίρετε. Σήμερα έχω τη χαρά να έχω στην παρέα μου τον θρυλικό Μάικ Μπατίστ, ο οποίος βραβεύτηκε πρόσφατα και είναι και επισήμως μέλος της καλύτερης 25άδας στην ιστορία της Ευρωλίγκας. Ένας παίκτης που έχει αφήσει ανεξίτηλο το στίγμα του στο ευρωπαϊκό μπάσκετ, στον Παναθηναϊκό και όχι μόνο. Ένας παίκτης που πλέον είναι, όπως μπορείτε να δείτε και από την μπλούζα που φοράει, assistant στους Toronto Raptors. Μαζί με τον Μάικ θα μιλήσουμε για το Final Four της Ευρωλίγκας. Θα μιλήσουμε φυσικά για την βράβευσή του, για το πώς βλέπει τους ελληνικούς τελικούς και πολλά άλλα. Οπότε νομίζω ότι είναι μια καλή στιγμή να ξεκινήσουμε. So Mike, thank you for being with us. It's a really big pleasure.
You're welcome. It's an honor to be on the show, man.
So Mike, as I said to our viewers, you were awarded as a member of the All Euroleague 25 team. You received your award in Abu Dhabi. So it's really important that some memories came to your mind. We saw some pictures with Diamandidis, Ombrádovitts. I mean, it must be great for a player to be awarded for all his sacrifices and all the things he's been through in his career.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's an incredible honor. Every player is sacrificing something. They're sacrificing their time, they're sacrificing their family, their friends, and whatever else it is to become the best basketball, player that they can be. And I'm extremely honored and proud for getting an award like this. I mean, it's the highest honor you can have in Euroleague, and to be selected as one of those 25 greats. It's a big honor for my family, and it's a big honor for myself. And when you look back on your playing career, there's no regret on how you did it. So I'm very, very happy about that.
Mike, how was your experience in Abu Dhabi? I mean, the first Final Four outside Europe, the first Final Four with some different, let's say, habits from the people there. So, how do you see it?
It was nice, man. It was like a big family reunion for me. The moment I checked into the hotel, the first person I run into is Ombrádovitts. And I thought I was in a dream because I wasn't expecting him to be there at all. So, of course, the picture that I posted is the reaction of what really happened at that moment, at that time. And then you see all of us like with the biggest smile, because I'm pretty sure all three of us had about, 1,000 memories running through our mind about, how we used to, play and how coach used to coach us and stuff like that. So it was a really good memory. But again, I also got to see former teammates. I also got to see opponents that I highly, respected. I think, when you're playing professional basketball, the highest respect you can get is from your peers and the guys that you're playing against. And I think I had that respect. Not just for those 25 guys that was on that list, but whoever, I played against. It was high level respect for both ends.
Mike, I want to ask you something personal. I mean, most of the players that used to play in the highest level of basketball, I'm sure that they think one time themselves playing in the Final Four. I mean, I'm sure you thought it came to your mind to be able to play for, let's say, Panathinaikos 5 minutes. Did you think about it?
I mean, whatever the situation that Ombrádovitts put me in, or not on myself, but every player, you know what I mean? And when we talked about sacrifice, right? We also have to sacrifice as players sometimes too. Our egos, individual accolades, everybody has those goals, but for the sake of the team, you do what you have to do. Like there's games where I would start, there's games where I wouldn't start. There's games where I will start the second half and wouldn't, and there was the games I would play more and don't play a lot. But as long as it contributed to winning, I didn't care if I played 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20. I was gonna find a way to make an impact with the time that I had on the floor.
I understand your answer, but what I really want to say is that right now, after you retired, did you think?
No, no, no. I got bad knees, man. The right and left knee is just it's just what it is right now. So everything that I'm saving on my knees, I'm waiting for my grandkids or my kids get older and have kids. So I gotta save my knees for them to run around my room when my kids have kids. But um, it's still an unbelievable feeling to be around people and they say, you physically look good, you look in shape, like you can still play. That's great, but I knew this game was going to have an end. And when it was going to end, that was pretty much going to be the end of like trying to be out there on the floor and do something. I don't have nothing else to prove. But during the games, your heart is beating, your palms are sweating, and you do have a what if. If I was out there scenario and how, you can, play to the crowd and play off the emotion and the hostile environment. I mean, going to five forwards, you know exactly what those players are going through on and off the floor. So from that perspective, that's the only time I ever felt like really intimate of terms of like wondering what if, but at the end of the day, I'm fine where I'm at. There's nothing else to prove.
So, Mike, now let's move on to the Final Four. Fenerbahce won it. I think they deserved it 100%. Your ex-teammate Saronas Jaskevicius faced another ex-teammate of yours, Vasilis Panoulis. So, how do you see the final?
It was a tough final to watch. It was a tough semifinal to watch because you want Spanulis to do well, you want Sharunas to do well, and then you want the team that you admire, you want them to do well. But all three of them can't make it to the finals, right? So one of them was going to be on the bad end of the candle, and unfortunately, that was Panathinaikos, losing to Fenerbahce. And then, of course, Monaco gets past Olympiacos. I'm pretty sure that was a very like high emotional game for Spanulis as well to beat his former team. And then those two guys meet in the finals. It's like, you know, you're torn between the both of them, and you really want them to have success, but only one of them can, be champion. And, Sharunas was, rightfully deserving. He coached a really good game. His team really played well and made plays when, plays needed to be made. And they was crowned EuroLeague champion. But, even in defeat, right? I know Spanulis, like he is using that defeat for motivation. And there's no doubt in my mind he's going to come back next year, with a vengeance because he's going to have that team from the very beginning. Remember, Spanulis took that team over, midway through the season and did a phenomenal job 6 months ago. So I can only imagine what he has when he goes like into training camp with those guys and really put a different level of his identity on the team. So I expect them to be a better team next year and possibly be in the Final Four again. So this is not the last we've seen of Billy, being on the Final Four platform.
So, Mike, you said that Panathinaikos was eliminated from Fenerbahce. Last year Panathinaikos won the Euroleague Championship. This year they didn't. So, what do you think they missed this year, and what do you think it takes for them to improve and make it back to the top the next season?
I think, injuries, losing Matthias was very, very big, I think. I mean, and everybody congratulates his will, his determination to, get back and play. But I think that was, even though they made it to the Final Four, I still think that was a tough blow. Matthias does so much for those guys, the rebounding, the scoring in the paint, and just the intensity that he plays with. You can't really, make that up. And, I just think they just got themselves in a pickle. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet of the semifinal game, they only had 7 assists as a team totally.
Yes.
And that's not going to get it done on that type of stage. The ball has to move. Other teammates have to touch the ball so they can feel like they're involved. And, once that happens, it's a different level of energy, right? The ball has energy. And once it's moving, like I said, even if you're touching the ball, you feel like you're part of the offense. And I just don't think there was enough guys involved in the offense. So from that point, I think, Panathinaikos, suffered a big blow.
Do you think that it was like they overachieved? Because you said that Matthias was out for a big part of the season. Does the fact that they reached the Final Four was an overachieving for Panathinaikos?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they still have high-level players, And even though Matthias was out, I still knew that they was going to compete every single night. They have high-level players that still can compete every single night. Of course, they made some transactions to fill the void for Matthias, picking up William Gabriel. Yurtseven also came back. He was dealing with an injury. So they have the bodies. But Matthias brings, again, a whole different level of something that Panathinaikos don't have in that front court, and even though they made it to the Final Four, it's like you need all your guns, all your bullets to be on that stage. And, I think Matthias is probably, 80, 90%, probably.
Physically, sure.
Yeah, that's still not, good enough. Again, we all congratulate him for the warrior that he is, but I just don't think, the reason why I say that, right? I've had injuries before. I've torn my ACL twice, right? I've had 3 knee surgeries. And when you're rehabbing and stuff, everything is in a structure, by your trainer. And it's hard to replicate like game speed, boxing out, jumping, running, setting screens, rolling. And I just think, Matthias really did have a feel of that. Game shape is a whole different level. You can run on a treadmill, you can run as many sprints as you want. But remember, basketball is a game of reaction. You know what I mean? And if you ain't got that reactionary shape, then it's going to put you a couple steps behind.
Okay, I see what you mean now. I mean, we can talk about Olympiacos, their 4th consecutive Final Four appearance, but they didn't manage to win the championship. They were considered to be, from most people, the favorites, but they didn't make it to the final. So, how do you see Olympiacos' performance?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a disappointment for them. I mean, going to 4 straight Final Fours and not being able to accomplish one of them, I'm pretty sure that's a big disappointment. But at the end of the day, Olympiacos is not going to bow down from anything. They're going to, retool, refocus, and they're going to try, do their best to get back to that stage again. Again, next year, I'm pretty sure they'll be a top team. They'll probably be, one of the favorites again. And, we'll see what happens, next year if they can get back to the Final Four or not.
Okay, Mike, it's been said in Greece that there are some say that it's a failure for Olympiacos to reach 4 Final Fours and not win it. And there are others that say, okay, it's a success that they make it 4 times in a row. What's your opinion about it?
Yeah, I think it is a success when you make it 4 times in a row. I mean, back in my time, I forgot how many times Jessica, made it to the Final Four before they finally broke through. I think the only one who really suffered disappointment was Kyle Karamika. At that time, I think they went to like 7 or 8 straight Final Fours, and they never really, broke through. So Olympiacos is not the first team who's had this Final Four success and been, disappointed. But I wouldn't say, it's a fair. I think getting to the Final Four is a success. The grind you have to go through the season is unbelievable, especially now. You're playing more games. Everybody is playing everybody. It's a real gauntlet. So for those 4 teams to make it out, it is a success. So again, like I was saying, we'll see what happens. With Olympiacos, they have a really good coach. He knows what he's doing down there, obviously, and we'll see what happens with them next year.
So, Mike, now it's time for the Greek finals, Greek Championship finals. After both teams didn't manage to make it to win the Euroleague. How do you see it, both as a player as you used to be and now as a coach, to prepare mentally the players for this kind of games? I mean, it's a title ahead.
Yeah, you take it one game at a time. And I would definitely tell those guys just stay in a moment. Don't worry about outside distractions. You probably want to stay off of social media a little bit more. You probably want to stay in your house a little bit more, because you just want to stay locked in on the task at hand. From my experience, that's what I did, especially when we played Olympiacos. It's a different type of energy through the city, when these two teams meet, let alone for the championship or cup final. And there's times when you're out and a couple fans see you, they have all these great things to say, but it's not a part of the game plan and what we're trying to accomplish as a team. Again, they all mean well, but as a player, you have to lock in and stay focused on the task at hand. You have to worry about the tactics that you have to execute with, and put all your focus on that and all your energy with your teammates, and you should be fine. Again, playing in a Greek League championship against your arch rival, it's a special feeling. And just take it one game at a time, one possession at a time.
Okay, Mike, we have seen many times that a lot of Panathinaikos fans ask you to join the team in the coaching staff, as an assistant, as a head coach. Recently, we saw a Panathinaikos fan saying to you that it's time for you to join Ataman staff. What do you have to say about it?
I really appreciate all the love and respect, and everybody knows that I'm coaching, and my desire to coach and also, be a head coach one day is definitely what I'm striving for. But for me to come to Europe and be an assistant coach, I don't think that's a promotion for me or a step forward. Like, I've been an assistant coach in the NBA for the last 10, 11 years. So I don't think it makes sense for me to go over there and be an assistant coach on anybody's staff. That's no disrespect to Ottoman. He's one of the greatest, and it's an honor, right? But at the end of the day, for me, to go over there in Europe, I want to be a head coach where I can put my own identity on a team and push players to the best of their ability to accomplish one common goal. So, we'll see what happens in the future. I'm still striving and hoping and believing that, one day a team from Europe or the NBA will give me that honor and, being their coach one day. And I'm going to be fully ready when that opportunity comes.
Let's suppose that one day Olympiacos comes to you with a head coach.
No way. No way. Shut that question down right now. No way. No disrespect, but, we all know, like, where, like, the boundary line is. I have high level respect for Olympiacos. Don't get me wrong. Again, to play against your arch nemesis and be successful with that, you got to understand, like, to be a great player, like, there's going to be opponents and teams that's going to push you over the hump. And Olympiacos did a lot in terms of that, because we always met them on some of the biggest stages in Europe. But in terms of coaching, that's where the boundary line is going to stop.
Okay, Mike, we see that there are many teams right now that are really active in the, let's say, transfer market, the summer transfer market. We said off that Panathinaikos, as it was mentioned in the last days, signed a contract with Ti Tζει Σορτς. There are also some agreements in the Euroleague. Olympiacos is close to signing Tyson Ward from Paris. So my question is, how do you see the Kendrick Nunn and Ti Tζει Σορτς fit in Panathinaikos? I mean, there are two guys that they both want their ball in their hands. They don't normally play off ball. So What's your opinion?
And we're gonna see how it works. I don't. To look on paper, you're like, oh man, this is wonderful. But I think the chemistry, when they tap into one another, I think that's going to be the true testing point. And we got to see how they play with each other or how well that they play when they're not playing with each other. So I think there'll be some sample size of when they're playing together, but for the most part, I think, they're probably going to, offset one another where, Kendrick could be on the bench and T J Shorts can be out there controlling the pace and tempo and vice versa. Or, when you get into those games and Kendrick gets in foul trouble, there's been plenty of games he's been in foul trouble or fouled out. And I think if he gets in those situations, I think that's where TJ Short can really, step in and fill that void. So it is a big signing. We'll see how it works. Remember 2009. Remember the roster that we had. We had unbelievable depth. We had superstar talent, and you kind of see that evolving with this upcoming roster with Panathinaikos. So it's going to take some time because even at 2019, it took some time. We didn't just fly right out the gate and just start beating everybody. There were some things that we had to work out trial by error. There's some games that we had to lose to learn the lesson for us to be better down the line and the end of the road. So we're definitely going to see how it works, but it's definitely an exciting signing, and we'll see what the future holds for Panathinaikos.
So your answer, let's say, can be an answer to those who say that, oh no, so many guards, so many players, they won't fit with each other. So, as you said, in 2009, Panathinaikos had probably the best team that has ever been in Euroleague. So, let's see.
Let's see, right? Only time will tell. But I'm pretty sure, again, everybody on that roster are professional. TJ Short's a pro, Kendrick Nunn's a pro. They know that there's a couple of things that they're going to have to sacrifice to make this relationship work. So I'm pretty sure they're going to sit down and have some kind of conversation, but I'm also pretty sure that Adamon's going to have a plan to try to make it work. And then once it does, it's going to take off. And if it don't, then they're just going to have to, use a few games, a month or 2 months into the EuroLeague season for them to click. So we'll see what happens.
So, Mike, last but not least, we saw last year Kendrick Nunn moving from the NBA to Europe. Sasha Vezenkov returned from the NBA. They are both EuroLeague stars. We saw after this some players like Lonnie Walker coming to EuroLeague, but he returned back to the NBA. So, I mean, do you think that it's a start from the NBA players to move to Europe and become superstars?
I mean, I think so. I mean, EuroLeague basketball has grown so much that it has become a worldwide conglomerate, and players in the NBA know about EuroLeague, right? They haven't played in the EuroLeague, but they know about it, they hear about it. If it's 450 players or more in the NBA, there's a really good chunk size of 30-40% of those guys are European players. And I'm pretty sure they're telling stories about EuroLeague or about friends that are playing in EuroLeague. The games come on very early. So, I mean, you can wake up and watch those games, with your teammates and explain certain situations of the crowd, the pressure, the passion, and everything else that EuroLeague stands for, right? So I think when certain guys on an NBA roster who are like ninth, 10th, 11th man who are at the bottom end of that roster, I think that they start to, flirt with the opportunity of EuroLeague, like you said, like a Lonnie Walker. And then they take that opportunity, they go over there. And they do have some success. Again, Lonnie Walker. And then, if they have the opportunity to go back to the NBA, they go back. I can tell you from my own personal experience, after my first year at Panathinaikos, I was, trying to go back, to the NBA. But unfortunately, contractually, things just didn't work between Atlanta, Orlando, and New Orleans, the three teams I was talking to. So, you go back, you retool, you tap back in, and you try to take it, to a whole nother level. And I think that's what a lot of people are seeing, like from the States, right? They can go over there, integrate themselves into a culture. Of course, you have to buy into stuff like that on and off the floor. And then, when you do, it's an experience of a lifetime. Honestly, there is no other place in the world where you're going to get that passion from the fans and from the players. There's no other league in the world that's going to give you that pressure from the fans and also from your opponent. So, to me, again, the EuroLeague is growing every single year, from attendance, to TV rights, to social media. It is booming. And the reason why it's booming because the purity of the game has not been stripped away, from the European game of basketball. They have stuck to the roots, and it's only gotten better. And I think that's the reason why the NBA wants to come up over here and try to put their hand in certain things. Oh, they have passion. Oh, they have pride. We don't have that in the NBA. So let's go up over there and let's try to, tap into this, this different level of energy that we don't have there. And if I'm EuroLeague, I will respectfully decline and just, keep on pushing the envelope forward because everything is growing right now with EuroLeague. And as long as EuroLeague keeps going this way, I don't see the plan for the NBA to come in here and say, hey, we can help you with this. So, of course, the NBA has a lot of money. And of course, when a lot of money comes to the table, of course, you're going to sit down and talk with them and see if there is something. But at the end of the day, this is not the first time, EuroLeague and the NBA have met. They have met a number of times before. And after every meeting, they both walked out the door empty-handed. And I expect the same thing this time, too.
Okay, Mike, I said that the question before was going to be the last, but I want something more. You have probably seen that there is a change in the NCAA with some amounts given to the players, and there are a lot of young guys from Europe trying to move to the NCAA, and it's becoming more and more and more. So, what's your opinion on this?
I like that the young guys are getting paid. I went to college. We didn't get it. We didn't get anything, man. All we got was just a loot check. I don't know, $700. You had to pay your rent, your bills, and whatever you had after that. That's all you had. But the structure of the game has changed where guys are now allowed to be paid, and for that, it opens up the whole world, to a system where young guys can go and get an education. They can go, play top level or mid major NCAA basketball and still get paid and make a living. Like now, you don't have to be a professional athlete you know, to make a living. You can do that all in college now. On the other end, I think it kind of dilutes a little bit of the European product because, now younger guys or even the talented younger guys are leaving and going over to college. And it kind of dilutes the European product a little bit because you want that young talent to stay around to play in the European system and push the Euro Cup and push the EuroLeague forward. So that right there is one eye-opening thing, but we'll see how it works. A lot of guys, they leave Europe, they go to the States, they don't like the experience, they come back, right? So we'll see how it works in terms of European guys going up over there and how long they stay, right? They can go over there for a couple of years and make some money, 2-3 years, whatever, and they can always come back to Europe and play for their respective country. So let's see if that's the game plan or not. But if those guys go over there, wonderful, get your money, play the games and get that type of experience. But if you don't have the goal to get to the NBA, go back to Europe and continue to allow the European game grow with you in it.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure for me to have you here. So
thank you, man. It's been an honor, man, to talk. You know, memories, you know, present, future. It's been an honor, man.
Και εμείς φτάσαμε στο τέλος ενός ακόμα Let's Talk. Είχαμε στην παρέα μας τον Μάικ Μπατίστ και θα τα πούμε σε κάποια από τις επόμενες εκπομπές.